the City of Clear Lake Shores City Council meeting, regular meeting, March 16th, 2021 at 6:30. Call the meeting to order. Absent is Councilwoman Jan Bailey and Mayor Pro Tem Christy Lyons. In presence is Alex Scanlon, Randy Chronister, and Rick Fisher. And item 2 is pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one, indivisible. Well, it's great to see everybody here today, and not behind a TV screen and in your home, and all the nice smiling faces. So nice to be able to get out. And first off is item number 3, public hearing with the City of Clear Lake Shores will hold a public hearing to discuss an ordinance violation regarding the substandard building at property 419 Oak Road, Clear Lake Shores, Texas 77565. So at this time, the public hearing is open if anybody would like to speak.
Do you expect me to speak?
If you would like, Mr. Trent.
Well, the notice I got said I'm supposed to present my plan for this.
Yeah, you can come up and speak and present your plan.
Yeah. I just didn't know what the procedure was.
Yes.
Attorney, I should see.
Can you use the microphone, please?
How do I do it? There's a little switch. That what? On the bottom? Oh, I see.
Yeah.
On the side.
For the record. Bless you.
I don't see it.
And just for the record, Mr. Trinecki, can you state your name and address, please?
Brian Trinecki.
And your address, please.
419 Oak Road. Well, you know, I'm itinerant at the moment.
All right. Brent, is it on? Because I'm not hearing. Can y'all hear him out there?
No.
Test, test, test. If you can turn it up a little bit.
I can talk pretty loud. No, I'm used to projecting. Hello? Okay? Yeah. I say my name's Edmund Brian Chernecki, and my former address is 419 Oak Road. Of course, I don't reside there at the moment. Burnt up. So you want to know my plan? Is that what the issue is?
Yes, so if you can go ahead and present your plan, and you're discussing it to council is what we're bringing it to.
Yeah, yeah, I read the thing. First of all, and the council will understand, I have to object to the notice because it wasn't legally adequate, and that's not because I don't want to speak, as I will, but if I don't object, then I'm consenting to the situation, and I don't want to do that for fear that I might have to appeal to district court later. And so I want to object to the notice since it wasn't timely or proper under the code. And I could go through the detail, but I'd rather not. So is that noted? Or I will go through the detail if you want. I can't hear you, actually.
You've made remarks. You can continue.
Is that sufficient?
I'm not. I can't arbitrate that. You just need.
Do you want to know more?
I want to know what you have to say.
Well, the code requires a 10-day notice, and it wasn't 10 days.
Okay.
The code requires that the notice be posted on the property of the public hearing. It was today, but it hasn't been for 10 days. The notice that is posted about the public hearing is a 3-page document in a plastic envelope stapled to the front of the house. But 20 feet away from the house is a large sign by the City of Clear Lake Shores not to enter the property, and it's in 12-point type, so there's no way to read it from where you're not allowed to enter. So it's really not a notice at all. It's all like that. And then I've gotten 3 letters from the city and two of them are similar, and the third one is different. So I don't even have notice of the actual violation. So those are my objections to the notice requirement of the hearing.
Understood.
What?
Understood.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I'm talking about a formality here in case I have to appeal it. As for this matter, I know that the council wants to know what I'm going to do, so I'm more than willing to go through that. Being an attorney, you know, I got to do it. All right, so the thing burned on the 24th, and the city served me with some kind of paper on the 26th, I think, about 3 pages of stuff I'm supposed to do. It was at 2 p.m. on Friday when I got that letter, and I was, according to the letter, I was supposed to accomplish all that by 8 a.m. Monday, and that's just virtually impossible. Can't be done. I don't think you could do the 3 pages in a month, let alone 3 days. Anyway, I worked 12 hours a day for 3 days solid. 3 days solid. Anybody who walked by the property knows that because they saw me out there. And the community has been very generous. They've given me money and clothes, and it's just been a wonderful experience, actually. But the stress of this whole city thing is driving me out of my mind because I'm just trying to do the right thing, and it's going to take time. As far as the building goes, I read in the code the purpose of the public hearing on the building is to determine whether or not it's inhabitable. Trust me, it's not. In other words, I don't know as we need a fact-finding thing to determine that. It's burned up, and nobody could live in there. I wouldn't either. So I'm not going to, and neither is anybody else. As far as the future plan, I'm going to try to make this succinct, and then if anybody has questions, you can ask me. My future plan was, or is, I guess, to get out whatever personal property I could that wasn't destroyed. The first floor of the building, contrary to some statements, was not affected by the fire. I know that there's a box of Wheaties in there and rice and things, and they're not affected at all. I mean, they're not burned. I have Amazon Alexa that was in there, works fine. The refrigerator works fine. It all works fine. If it was in the fire, it wouldn't work fine. It did get wet, but fortunately, unlike a flood, when a flood comes in, which I've been through 2 of those here, it comes underneath, and it ruins all the motors and the electronics. But the fire department put the water on from top, so it just kind of rained on those appliances, and they still work fine. So they're out of there. Don't worry, they're not going to burn up. There's no electricity at the property. I've removed them, and they're in climate-controlled storage, hopefully drying out. The point of all that is that I don't think the first floor is of any significant danger to anyone. It's a mess because of the water, but it's not dangerous. The second and third floor, however, have been damaged substantially. There's 2 buildings on the property, one building in the back and one in the front. It's the building in the back that really caught fire. The water heater overheated, and I know how it happened. I can explain that if you want to know, but anyway, it caught fire. And it was remote from me. I didn't realize the fire was going on. My son was in the bathtub. I smelled the smoke, but I couldn't tell where it's coming from. I opened a door, and the smoke filled the room. I couldn't see. I had to crawl on the floor on my hands and knees to find my boy. He has cerebral palsy, so he can't walk, and he can't call to me, but he was screaming. So I found him. I felt my way in the tub. I could feel his feet, but I couldn't see him. I put my hands up on his shoulders and dragged him out. By the time I dragged him out, the fire was engulfing the back building. The back building is totally destroyed. There's no salvage value in it. I intend to have that wiped off the land. So that future intentions, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have that taken down totally.
At what time frame, Mr. Patnacki?
Say again?
During what time frame? I mean, what's your plan?
Well, that's a good question, and I asked the building inspector the same thing, and he couldn't answer it either. It's sort of like asking me what length a piece of string is. I can do this. I will promise this. I will work every day diligently with whatever resources I can muster, and I have both men and equipment at my disposal to get that done. But I can't control whether it's going to rain. I can't control whether, there's some unforeseen circumstance. I think that I can get the back building done fairly quickly because it's just going to take a bulldozer,
And what is fairly quickly?
You're asking me, do you see how impossible it is to estimate that?
Can you do it in 30 days?
I don't think the back building alone would take more than 30 days, no.
Okay.
But I can't do the back building first because I got to get to it. You see? debris has to be removed first before you can get equipment to the back. So that's the problem with the back building. The back building poses no danger to the public. There's nothing there to fall on anybody. Or the only danger of the back building is a public nuisance kind of thing, or attractive nuisance, you know. But the yard's completely fenced. I mean, it's posted. Anyway, let me go on with what I'm going to do.
Please.
Yeah, the front building, I don't know yet. I don't think the front building is actually damaged. The front building consists entirely of concrete and steel. The only thing other than concrete and steel is a wooden interior. But it's not damaged either. It's wet, but it's not burned or anything. The fire just did not enter the lower level. So my thinking is it will take, I don't know, a few weeks probably to rip off the top 2 floors. They're not intact anymore. There's less than 50% of the top 2 floors remaining. But, you know, it's up in the air. So we have one of those boom lifts coming. It's going to be here, I think, Thursday. And so we can reach the top. It's probably a little dangerous to crawl up there and cut it down. But I do have that arranged, and Mike Henry is here. He's in the back, and he's the guy who's arranging it for me. He's in the construction business, and he's volunteered to do that. Then I had a dumpster coming today from Amero Waste, $550 worth. They pulled it on the island. They couldn't drop it because of the electric wires. Apparently, in order to drop it, it has to be tilted up. It's 22 feet long, but it's on the truck. So he says he needs 30 feet of clearance. Well, the wires aren't 30 feet above the ground, so he wouldn't drop it. So that's out. Yes, wonderful. So now what I've done is again, Mike Henry he's going to bring a construction trailer. That we can just back into there, and then we'll load the debris on that and haul it away. So, I mean, my plan then is to demolish the 3rd and 2nd floor, haul the debris away, haul the debris out of the yard away. There's piles of it, you know, piles of it. Then I'll get like a front-end loader or something and have the back building scraped off. And the front building, I was going to leave the concrete and block floor, first floor first. There's no roof on it, so a person can't live in there. But I was going to have a structural engineer examine it. And if it's okay, I'll leave it. If it's not okay, down it comes. I mean, I'm not crazy. I'm not going to live in something that's and I don't want something unsightly for the city either. I'm not in that business, but the fire just happened. I mean, I just can't. And I kind of take issue with the whole violation thing. I haven't violated anything. I mean, you can go blame God if you want to, but I had nothing to do with this. I took no act to cause this fire. I stood there and watched my house burn with my naked kid. You know, so I don't really like that verbiage. The truth is the building is destroyed, you know, for the most part, and I'm going to just get it out of there. I also think I was advised by 2 realtors to put it up for sale as is. And I may list it just as it is, because a realtor told me, you know, a lot of people in the construction industry that might want to build on that, they buy it as is because they got the gear to get it off of there. So maybe I'll do that. I might list it while we're doing it. I'm not, at no time do I intend to just sit and wait. That's the point. I was there today. I was there the day before. I'll be there every day till we get it done. I didn't have a means of removing the trash until now. Yeah. But you have to take into consideration. I know the code allows this 10-day thing, but that's the minimum. I've lived there 28 years. This building is air conditioned because I had it air conditioned. That room up there is remodeled because my wife and I did it at our own expense. Yeah. I mean, there's a bathroom at that end. There didn't used to be. There was only one bathroom, and it was men and women used it. And I just thought that was absurd. So I had that bathroom built right there. While I was president of the EDC, I was the first president. My point is, I've done a lot for the island, you know, a lot more. I won't go into it, but a lot. And all I want is some consideration here for what's taken place. The day I got that notice, I couldn't get my prescription medicine. I take heart medicine. Walmart wouldn't give it to me because I didn't have a picture ID. The Pfizer, or not Pfizer, Aetna wouldn't allow the prescription to be filled because I already had a prescription. And they limit how much prescription medicine you can get. at one time for fear you're selling it. So I couldn't do it. I had to go to the doctor and get him to write another prescription. When I got to the pharmacy, they still wouldn't give me the medication because I didn't have my medical card because it burned up in the fire. It took me 3 days to get the heart medicine. My point being, this hearing is really quick after the damage, and I've had a lot of stuff to do. No driver's license, no credit cards. I have an online business. I have to run it to keep my income coming in. I have to do it on the computer. It has to do with investing. I invest a lot for people. Well, I can't do it. I need a computer. I go to Office Depot, they won't sell me a computer. You know why? No picture ID. I don't even have a credit card. I have the number, but they won't do it. So I have to wait, call the bank, get the card sent. I know I'm crying in the rain here, but I just want you to know I'm not sitting on my butt here. I'm doing the best I can to recover for myself and my family. And at the same time, I'm telling you, I worked 12-hour days over at that property for the first 3 days. And the building inspector, he came on 2 o'clock Friday, and in addition to the 3-page thing, he asked me to do 3 things. Fence the yard, put up the orange safety fencing, and pump that green liquid off. I told him at the time, I think he'd admit this, I told him I'd do the 2. I didn't want to pump the green liquid. I asked him, what is the green liquid? He didn't know. I'm not pumping something that somebody thinks is toxic unless I know what it is. I mean, that's just inane. I don't know I wouldn't know where to put it or how to do it. So we waited, and it turned out, I guess it's a harmless dye, thank goodness. But I did do the other 2 things he said, even though I'm telling you, I didn't have the heart medicine, my boy had no clothes, all that. So I still put up the fencing, and I fixed the fence that was broken, and I put up the sign. I did everything that I was supposed to do. I was trying my best to comply with the city's needs. I'm not at all antagonistic to it, but it takes time to do this stuff. I mean, it just takes time. And as to the total future, whether I intend to rebuild or sell, at this point, I intend to sell. I may change my mind, but my first, I was so disgusted with the fire in the city. I thought, I'm just going to get out of here. Two hurricanes and a fire, right? So I thought, I'm leaving. And then, this is true. I hope I don't cry here. As I'm cleaning up, and Mayor, yourself and your wife, Kim, people came by, they shook my hand, they had $50 in it, or $100, like that, right? So that's what changed my mind. I thought, well, maybe I'll stay, But the way it looks to me like, I'm not sure I have the money for it. I mean, to rebuild there, it's going to cost probably, $10 grand to tear the thing down. It's out of my pocket. I got no insurance. So then the question is, if I sell it, I get the money, I can go buy a house somewhere. If I don't sell it, I don't have that money. See? Now, I have money. I'm not broke. I can afford to get it done. But if I spend that money, I'm 73 years old, I don't have any money left. How will I live? So it's all like that, right? So I guess what I'm saying in the future, I'm not sure if I'll rebuild or sell. But right now, I feel I'm going to sell. And I think I'll list it pretty soon as is. And just, like I say, everybody here knows if a builder builds on that lot, they're going to make money. I don't care what they pay for it. So, I don't know. The guy next to me, Chris Gephardt, they own a house with no land. And he's indicated an interest in buying because it would help his house and, all that. So that's my story.
Right.
Do you have a time frame? I understand that you want to get things off.
I knew you were going to ask me because you're trying to hold me to that code, and I know that the maximum the council can give me is 90 days and the minimum is 30 days.
They can actually give you more if you make reports.
I don't mind doing
yeah.
it. My only hesitation at a time frame is, how the weather is
Right.
here. I mean, I can't control that. I started over there this morning. It started raining on me.
And when the actual agenda item comes up, you'll be able to speak again. But this is for council, for our public meeting right now. But council has it on later to determine that you have 30 days, and then they can choose. You work with the building inspector, and then you come up with the plan, and then it comes back to council, and they approve the plan. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, Lauren.
You're exactly right.
And then that can be either governed by a 90-day or greater than 90 days, providing that plan includes what Kevin allows for status reports.
Yeah, sure. I don't mind the status thing. I think that's reasonable. In fact, I just soon came by. It'd be easier to write. The problem with all this is the time it takes. Look, here, I'm here now, right?
And that's the whole reason for this, and I think there's a importance with the citizens and making sure that the property's safe, and we're looking out for the other residents of the area.
I understand. I'm not crazy, I understand. The fortunate thing, actually, on this particular property is I'm kind of reclusive, and, I was in the military for 4 years. I don't want to lay on that, but I'm a little paranoid compared to most people. I always think, when I leave my house to go in the driveway, I lock the door. I can't help it. So my point is, the property's always, it's kind of secure in the front. You've seen it. Everybody here's seen it. There's a wall and fence, so it's not something that's easy to get into. I mean, it doesn't mean it's impossible, but it's not like just some open land with nails sticking. And I am there every day, and a couple times kids have been by on their bikes. I have 5 children, the youngest of which is 12, and I like kids. I've been a father for over 40 years. So I've told all of them, really neat and all like that, but stay away from this stuff. You're going to get hurt in there. And I think they're kind of scared of it. It used to be, they were scared of it even when it was there. They thought it was,
Right.
like an evil dungeon or something.
And I know on behalf of the city and myself, we're sorry for your loss. I know it's a hard thing to go through. The biggest thing is the public meeting is to announce what you believe your plan is for everybody to hear it, council to hear it. Council's the one that votes on it. So
I'm gonna clear it, destroy it from the top down. If I get to a place where I think that might be solid, I'll get a structural engineer to look at it. If they can't validate it, I know it's gotta go, and then I'll go. And in any case, I think I might put it on the market.
Right.
I'll take $450 at this meeting.
Yeah. So to follow up, you also said that you didn't have insurance. I mean, some places do have insurance, and so they would be, coming in and clearing the property right away, and that's one of the concerns. Okay, so that'll be your plan that we can get to us.
I mean, maybe it would cost them $10,000 or $20,000 to clear it. I've got 10 or 20,000. I can assure you of that. So that's not a problem.
I think that's important to the neighbors to safe the area so that walls don't fall over.
Well, that's another thing Kevin wanted. There was one wall flapping in the breeze. You remember that? I mean, you took a picture of it, I think. It was just kind of loose like this. And I went to the lady next door. I don't know her name, actually. But, I don't know her last name. But I told her, I said, I'll get that wall down as quickly as possible, but it's 3 stories in the air. And she said that'd be okay at the moment. But then I had some help come. And he insisted we go up there and take that out. I didn't want to do it. The guy has nerves of steel, really. I mean, yeah. Anyway, up we went. He threw a rope around it, and we pulled that wall down. So the wall that was loose is down. We took that down. The wall that's standing, I've heard that it's leaning, but it's not leaning. I defy anybody to put a plumb bob on it. It's not leaning. It's not going to fall, I don't think. But it doesn't matter. It has to come down. It's not a matter of it's not going to fall, so it's good to go. It's not good to go. It's fire damage. It has to come down. So I'm not. There's no debate there. That's why I thought it was funny when I read the municipal ordinance. It said public hearing to determine, I think, whether it's habitable or something. I thought, boy, that's Captain Obvious there. I mean.
Right. It's a formality for council.
I know. This was funny to me. I thought, well, I didn't even know that was an option to throw a hammock up there. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to take everybody's time. Do you recognize your clothes? Cronister gave me he gave me better clothes than I had before. So I'm sporting now. Somebody gave me a pair of running shoes and I have them on, and the soles came off. I had to go get shoe goo. So if you want to go get some New Balance, I'm open. Anyway. I have to make light of it. There's nothing I can do to go forward here as best I can. And I am the kind of person I know people would just like, oh, poor me. It's not that. That's the past. I got to look at the future. I don't feel that way about it. Life. My famous saying is God deals the cards. I play the hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I'm doing. Anyway.
I appreciate you coming up and speaking during the public portion of this, and
yeah, I'm sorry I'm so verbose, but I used to be paid to talk, so I tell you, there's something I like to see as a lawyer that I haven't done. Oh, yeah, I got my coat. That was another thing I had to interrupt for. I But I got the first Pfizer, and I don't know if you guys are into it yet. After 8 days, the Israelis have shown that the Pfizer is 85% effective after the first shot. Today's the 8th day, so breathe on me if you will.
That's why I heard they're looking at going with one shot on that. Yep. Thanks.
I'll do a little dance on it.
All right. Anybody else would like to speak at this time?
It's working?
Yeah, it's on.
They're
able to hear me? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and just take the mask off so the ability to communicate. My name is Raymond Puginski. I live at 427 Oak Road, which is the property adjacent to. Lean into it. Is that better? Okay. My name is Raymond Puginski, and this is my wife, Katie McMahon. We live at 427 Oak Road, which is the property adjacent to Mr. Chinecki's property at 419 that caught fire on February 24th. You still can't hear me? You still can't hear me. I really got to mouth this thing. Okay. Raymond Puginski, 427 Oak Road. This is my wife, Katie. She probably should be doing the speaking because she's probably got a better voice for it anyway. Yes, so we live next door to Mr. Chinecki's property that caught fire on February 24th. We were actually up in our bedroom. She had just got home from work and was changing out of her work clothes, and we were just chatting about her day. And she looked out the window and noticed that there was a significant amount of fire, or excuse me, smoke. And I kind of, was dismissive, saying, well, smoke emits, things get burnt over there occasionally all the time. And she said, no, this is a lot of smoke. And so we looked out the window. The rear building that caught fire initially is 10 feet away from our home. And it's right directly outside of our bedroom windows. She immediately ran downstairs over to Mr. Chinecki's house and started pounding on the door to let them know that there was a fire in the back. She was on the deck. All right, so there's a little, anyway. I got on a call with 911 standing in front of those windows and watched in the less than 2-minute call, which I'm sure is something we can verify. It went from billowing smoke to 40-foot flames. There was an explosion, at which point I said something indelicate to the 911 operator and hung up the phone. We ran downstairs. Katie had already gotten everybody out of our house, and at that point, certainly the Kemah Police Department was on site. I can't exactly tell you when the fire truck first arrived. CLSPD, please. Thank you. I misspoke. Out of all of this, we did have the city initiate a letter, or not we, the city, on its own behalf, sent a letter to Mr. Chinecki to remediate the falling hazard, which was the 3.5-story freestanding wall that is on our property line, hanging over our driveway and the front portion of our home. What occurred was, a few days later, a section approximately the size of 3 sheets of plywood was pulled down, and evidently everyone somehow decided, or no one questioned whether that was satisfactory or not. I did voice that at the time. We have been out of our home for now. Tomorrow will be 3 weeks in a hotel. The property is a falling hazard. It has a falling hazard. It has a liability. We can't live there, and I can't get contractors in there to begin work. So there's obviously expense. When I did try to engage the city to try to understand why the falling hazard wasn't fully remediated, I was told to come to the meeting on March 16th. So that sense of urgency, I think, got lost. So at this point, you know, that's water under the bridge to a certain amount. But I do want to understand when the immediate liability falling hazard that is on my property is going to be resolved so that I can move back into my home and begin the repair process. And we do have some insurance, so we're lucky in that, but they won't wait forever. There are caps on the amount of, you know, things they will cover, especially as far as being out of our home. And the property, as far as it being cleaned up after the falling hazard, I want to be able to find dates and have accountability for how that is going to be done, that the debris be completely removed, that the chemicals be cleared. Evidently, yes, Hazmat came back and said they are not toxic. There were lots of rumors going around about where it came from, but there's really no way it could have gotten there hadn't from anywhere else. It was there previous. And I also want to make a point of, I suspect any rebuilding efforts may want to recoup some of the building materials that are currently on site. We have to make sure that doesn't just get pushed into unorganized piles, because they will remain to be a health hazard and an attractive nuisance. So I would like to understand, can this plan be placed in writing with some sort of authoritative teeth? And the review process, I completely understand that. It's just that we've spent a lot of time without making any progress. And I want to stop at this moment and say the first thing I should have said was the first responders, our police, Kima Fire, all were fantastic. You saved our home. We did take damage, but without the actions and the very quick response that we received, it would be gone. So I don't know. I don't want to go. Just I could addle on for a long time. I'll let my wife Katie speak now.
Thank you. Hi, Catherine McMahon, 427 Oak Road also. And also appreciate our first responders. I'm also a military veteran, Brian, so I completely empathize and sympathize with your frame of thinking. I have a great heartfelt sympathy that goes out to Brian. There's nothing like watching your neighbor see his house burn down, and that's something that I would never wish upon anybody. All we want to do, obviously, is remediate the situation and hopefully have the best outcome for everybody. We obviously do sincerely thank our first responders. I saw them in action. They were courteous, responsive, very communicative, and did every possible thing they could do to work to save property and life. And I would also like to thank our officials in our city and our neighbors, just the outpouring of support on both sides for us as well. Everyone extended every possible thing that they possibly had to extend to us, and we have 2 children as well, and it's been, you know, a displacement for us, but not quite the same as it is for Brian and his children, so I want to acknowledge that as well. Basically, we want to work with the city. We want to work with all of the officials to do the best thing that we can to try and make this process move forward as quickly and expediently as possible within the parameters that would be able to help us get back in our home as soon as possible. And right now, our general contractor, like as Raymond stated, has communicated that until that particular wall has been evaluated or taken down, that they won't be able to come onto the property. So we are in waiting, but we are understanding, and we just want to to get the same place that everybody wants to get and get some resolution here. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Raymond. Catherine? Anybody else for the public hearing?
Could I just say one more thing? I do intend, the wall they're speaking of is adjacent to the driveway. That is the first wall we're gonna take down, so as soon as Thursday, you'll get them. Thursday, we have, the people with the boom lift wouldn't come because of the rain. Yeah, but they're coming Thursday, and, actually, we need to use
Right.
the driveway. Well, that's obviously it's totally fine. Yeah, so we're just gonna pull it, so I just wanna assure the council, we're gonna take that wall down first thing. Thank you. Cause we don't want them displaced. Yeah. I'm displaced. I'm displaced. Somebody gave me a pair, Randy knows, somebody gave me a pair of slippers, and it's very kind, you know, and she said, here, you can wear these around the house. And I said, I don't have a house. You know, I can't wear them around the
Any others on public hearing? Having no others, we'll close the public hearing at, I think that's 7:06. We'll go on to item number 4, reports from council. Councilwoman Jan Bailey is not present. Councilman Rick Fisher?
Nothing to report at this time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fisher. Councilwoman Christy Lyons is not present. Councilman Alex Scanlon?
There was a roads and drainage meeting last week and a waterfront compliance walk of the perimeter of the island. I'll update during the committee update section.
All right, thank you, Mr. Scanlon. Councilman Randy Cronister?
I don't have anything to report at this time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cronister. I know it's gonna be mentioned again later, probably in the Civic Club, but, to join us in the cleanup around CLS this Saturday, meeting at Jarboe Park at 0900, and, this is being put together by Doris Sanders, so thanks for her and the Civic Club and CLS Yacht Club. Then also there'll be awards given out, for folks working this by water, and, for the most, weirdest collection and the heaviest, so that'll be getting a trophy. And then the collections will be, reviewed at 12 o'clock at the, Pavilion, Paul Shelley Pavilion. And then lastly, this should be opened up this weekend, but a huge kudos to the Boy Scouts of America and Brandon Dunnigan for putting and spearheading the rebuild of the city kayak launch. If everybody has been able to get down there and take a look at that, it's a pretty good job they did. We just got to fix the ramp going onto it, and it'll be opened up hopefully for this weekend so everybody can launch their kayaks. So that's all I had. Next is item 5, staff reports, Police Department Chief Keel.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Citizens, I appreciate y'all being here. It is kind of weird to be in the building again. I'm going to be very brief. We have the new camera systems for the in-car mobile video and the body cams for the officers to wear are being installed this week. Hopefully completion on Friday sometime. They'll turn it over to me and give me a brief rundown on how it's supposed to operate. Keep your fingers crossed. That's all I have. Question?
All right, thank you, Chief Keel. Next is Building Official Kevin Harrell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My building report from March 2nd to March 16th. In that time, 17 new permits have been issued. 16 of those permits are minor construction. I have one new home at 622 Pine. Current residential construction, I've got 6 homes currently being built in various stages of construction. New commercial, Oakey's Yard House is going well. The new kitchen hood has been installed. The gas fire pits were inspected and approved. Hopefully they'll be in operation soon. And then they poured a new floor topping in the canopy area. Galveston Bay Brewing Company, I'm still waiting on drawings. I did speak with the architect. Hopefully I'll have those in a few weeks. Marina Bay Harbor, they are putting in that fuel system. They're almost complete with that. They also did pour some new parking spaces. Code enforcement and waterfront leases. I currently am tracking 7 code enforcement cases. They're all waterfront bulkhead issues from my inspection on October 29th, 2020. I did receive the new Water Compliance Committee inspection list. I'm going through that right now, but most of those violations are numbers and fill, a few peer violations. Should be getting those letters out next week. That's all I have. If you don't have any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Harrell. Next is Clear Lake Shores, Kema Volunteer Fire Department Chief Rob Saniga.
Good afternoon. I didn't bring my full statistics since we were a little early, and I just wanted to make sure I was here so we could help to answer any questions that came up in regards to the public hearing. But in regards to February, we ran 64 total incidents, 50 fire, 14 first responders. Average response time was 3 minutes and 36 seconds with an average turnout time of 1 minute and 11 seconds. The majority of those calls, 29, came in a 96-hour period during the Winter Storm Uri, which were predominantly broken water lines and all the related incidents from the storm. Reviewed last time as far as we're very thankful for all of our mutual aid partners that Seabrook and Leak City, as well as the Leak City and Seabrook Fire Marshal's office that came out to help us with the Oak Fire incident. That's all I have to report right now.
And just on behalf of the city, extend our great gratitude to the whole department for the firefighting that they did on Oak, and then also during the freeze with folks, water thawing out and starting to let loose a little bit and leaking everywhere and keeping our water department intact. And also thanks to the Seabrook and League City fire departments who had mutual aid. Really appreciate that. Yeah. Next is Galveston County Health District Amy Weber, and she's not present. There was a report sent out to council on EMS. Next is City Administrator Brent Spear.
In holding with tradition, I'll keep it brief so we can move on. We are basically a year into COVID. We're starting to get back to normal, and it is a little weird to sit in a room with a bunch of people, but I'm happy to be here, and I know you are too. The city is also continuing their cleaning practices at City Hall. We're encouraging social distancing around people you're not in your household or that you spend the whole day with. Also, our occupancy limits have gone back to normal, but we also have COVID waivers for people that are renting our city facilities, so they understand that we can't prevent COVID and protect their guests, so they need to be aware of that, and they understand it. Haven't had any problems. With our municipal court, it will continue to be virtual, so it's going to be virtual in March and April this year. It may return in May to in-person if the judge is able to come up with a plan that's approved by the Office of Court Administration and the mayor as the emergency management director. So we won't have any parking issues probably for the next 2 months around this building. So that's good news. Continue working with the Texas Parks and Wildlife grant. That's still a committee, and they have a software changeover. And I know that with the recent freeze, we've all noticed a lot of brown palms. City landscaper came out and caught a lot of the ones along the perimeter of the island that were badly affected. North side of the island particularly took a big shot, and we're hopeful that we can see some recovery. We know that some of the small queen palms are actually dead, so they're going to eventually have to be removed. We're hopeful with the tall ones that in the next year, possibly two, that they will survive and continue. But for people that have lived here for a long time and been through a lot of storms, that's something you're used to. I'm from Indiana, and we don't have palm trees, so it's a different animal. But we are working on that. I think further down, you'll have maybe a report from EDC in regards to some of the Palm stuff. On Daniel Drawer Avenue, those plans are completed, and I haven't received an update from the Galveston County engineer. However, I think they're in the process right now. CenterPoint is in the process of trying to locate the power lines and move them back appropriately in the right-of-way that's been established. So we will get that marked, remarked for them, and they can move forward with that project so construction can progress. And for those that are unfamiliar, Daniel Drawer Avenue will connect off of Hanson and behind Home Depot, and will be a north-south road that will connect to 518. So that will add some connectivity. Eventually 518 it'll be a signalized intersection. You'll be able to go north and south and east and west at that intersection. So that's big for this area, and also supporting our local businesses. Pool plastering, which is part of our Pools and Parks Committee, that's been moved back to March 28th because of availability of materials. I think there's a lot of pool activity going on right now, so we'll be moving that back to the end of the month with their schedule, and it should complete in mid to late April. EDC update will take place here in a little bit. City Hall and Clubhouse, we've done some renovations. If you didn't notice, we have some new canopies on this building. They look really nice, so when you leave, take a peek at them. The ones that were there look pretty good from the curb, but they had a lot of age on them, and they were starting to kind of fall apart on the edges. So that's been taken care of. And let's see, we had our public meeting, and I think that's it for right now. I encourage you to get out on March 20th and help with shoreline cleanup. Is there any questions?
I would just like to extend a huge kudos to all the city personnel for all the work y'all do, and it's no small feat, and it's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, so thanks for doing all that. And also with the palm trees, I'm actually starting to see some growth out of all the ones that we've cut, so it looks promising, but in 2 years that's when you really tell. But we'll be looking at probably putting an ad hoc committee together to generate some type of program to plant around the island. So look forward to that. Thanks, Mr. Spear. Next is committee reports. So at this time, any member from one of the above listed committees, commissions may give an update on the interactions of their appointed committee and commission. So first up is Parks and Pool. All right, next is Roads and Drainage. Mr. Sowery.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. We weren't able to give a report at the last meeting because it wasn't held, so I'm going to talk about what happened over the past 2 months. And I'll try to keep it brief as everyone else has done. On the 26th of January, we held a workshop that began work on coming up with road construction specifications for the city. Alex led the discussion with his preliminary drawings and suggestions for the specification. Our master drainage plan topics were also discussed at the meeting. We talked about best practices for pavers, although we haven't come up with complete details on it, but we started it off. We also came up with best practices for stormwater culvert pipe using high-density polyethylene pipe, and as well as reinforced concrete, and we agreed that the plastic pipe would be acceptable as long as it was installed properly. We also tried to get started on looking at the height of new construction slabs above the adjacent road center line. We started the discussion to give guidance to avoid flooding nearby homeowners. So as you put in the slab gets higher, you tend to push the water onto your neighbors, and so we're trying to find an equitable height that makes sense. other issues outside of this workshop, we had a preliminary copy of the pavement management program that we purchased just recently by a company called Pavement Management Group. We got that for review. We sent out information back to them to help them do a better job on it. And it turned out that their ranking of the worst roads on the island turned out to be very similar to the ranking that we had developed earlier on over the years. And it turns out that we are going to settle on Blue Point and Narcissus as good candidates for our next road project. PMG estimated that they're about 80% complete on their product, and their turnover is expected to be the March 22nd, which it turns out that we have a meeting set for the 24th. We're starting to begin interviewing 3 contractors to do asphalt paving for Blue Point and Narcissus. We had a field meeting with a company called Derek Harmson Construction Company, and we met at Blue Point and Narcissus and Juniper, walked the roads with the rest of our team, and the representative gave us recommendations for the repair and alternatives for each of those roads. He has revised his bid package and additional features, with the additional features that we had discussed. Just last week, I spoke with another company called South Tex Asphalt Services last week to review their earlier bid to find out what their capabilities are. We should be able to do a field meeting sometime like the last one we did with Harmston the week of the 22nd. Hopefully we can carry that out next week. An additional company will also be contacted. It's we think it's going to be Sullivan Paving, who had submitted an earlier bid, but we're in the midst of doing that. So, are there any questions?
Lots of stuff going on. Thank you, Mr. Starr. All right, next is Zoning Board of Adjustments.
No report out this time for Zoning Board of Adjustments. P&Z, our chairman's here. We will have a meeting on the 29th. We'll report out on the meeting in April.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Machowski. All right, and waterfront compliance.
I'll fill in for Mr. Milbauer. He gave me a nice little summary here. On March 5th, the Waterfront Compliance Committee walked the perimeter of the island for their yearly inspection. As Kevin mentioned, they reported all of the, deficiencies to him. He gave a nice summary of that. They wanted me to remind everyone that the freeze damaged plants and possibly water lines, or I don't know if they're water meters on some of these waterfront leases, but please check them. I know they're out of sight, out of mind. It's the middle of the winter, or whatever Texas winter is, so give those a look in case you have a leak that's slowly pouring into the lake. That's all I have.
It'd be the green waterfront, right? Yeah. All right, thanks, Alex. All right, next is item number 7, public comments. At this time, any person with city-related business may speak to City Council in compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. City Council may not deliberate. Comments from the public should be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes per individual. Yes, sir. Huh? Well, that's not on here.
It's not listed.
We can go ahead and we'll go back. We'll throw you in with the committee reports. We've got Civic Club. Sorry.
Okay, so Civic Club, we're gearing back up. Kurt mentioned that we have the island cleanup this Saturday that's hosted by Doris Sanders. Soul Freak is serving coffee that morning, and then the Yacht Club is giving the awards that he mentioned. Thursday, April 1st, we will hold a Civic Club meeting again. April 3rd, we have the annual Easter egg hunt and pictures with the Easter Bunny at Jarboe Park from 1 to 3. Sunday, April 4th, will be Easter sunrise services at Depot Park. And they're going to be selling the lilies again. I don't have much information on that yet, though. May 6th, we're going to have the ice cream social in conjunction with the city pool membership night held at the pool. May 15th will be the citywide garage sale, and we're looking for someone to head that up if anybody's interested. June, we're looking at having Steak and Sinatra again. And last but not least, on June 1st, we will be awarding scholarships to the graduating seniors that are awarded the scholarships.
All right. Thank you, Teresa. And anybody here for EDC? Mike? Mr. Pons?
Hello? Okay. On the palm trees, the EDC had implemented a 5-year palm tree plan prior to the freeze. We've hired an arborist. Freeze kind of interrupted things. We're now in a stage of basically evaluating and the damage and coming up with some options. EDC has also received preliminary bids on a plan designs for a boardwalk pedestrian bridge on the east side of the Clear Lake Bridge Road. So we're looking into that. And we have a contract out to install lighting on the lead parking lot, so that should be happening. And then last but certainly not least, Jammin' on Jerbo kicks off April 3rd with the new Ezra Charles Band.
All good stuff. Thanks, Mike. And good to see Jammin' on Jarbo going. All right, now we'll go to item number 7, public comments. Mr. Wachowski.
Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to send out a very big thank you to the chief and his wonderful police department. We had the unfortunate experience a week ago Saturday. Someone hit and did a hit and run on our car. With a little bit of assistance from us and some surveillance video, the police were able to track down the individual. We've made contact, and they will be using their insurance to repair our car. So I do really appreciate the hard work. I know that sometimes those things don't mean anything to some people until you have to have that, but we really do appreciate our police force. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Wachowski. Anyone else? Public comments? All right, moving on to item 8, old business, discussion of possible action may be taken on the following items. Item A, discussion only, replacement of the pier and bulkhead at Lowell Brown Park. Brent Spear.
Anticipated bringing back an RFP, or request for proposal, back to council in March. It appears that probably April. I've got about a 20-page document that's outlined it. Kevin and I were able to sit today and go through it and review, the timeline and the scope of work. Alex has contributed a drawing. I'll be kicking a drawing back to him for some revisions, or Mr. Scanlon, sorry. And I think then we'll be ready to go. I'll also have a couple other sets of eyes review it just for completeness. But this was it's a pretty heavy document. Like I said, it's 20 pages long. I printed both sides in the interest of saving paper. But we'll add a couple of pictures and a couple graphics to this, and it should be ready to go. Identifying the timeline is important. Probably looking at like a summertime build, but that will also coincide with I think that they're starting to gain a little headway on pier rebuilding right now. They've had been working since middle of last year to try to catch up on some of those storm damages. This was a similar situation with heavy wave action coming in and tearing up the pier, and when water was low, we were able, Kevin was able to do an inspection around the perimeter of the island to see bulkheads that are normally covered with water. So basically we're able to look all the way up to where the rocks and the mud start. So that's what brought this to fruition. One of the things that I'd like to discuss with council is I was planning on just letting you know I was planning on getting 2 different quotes, one for the appropriate wood bulkhead, another quote for vinyl and or fiberglass, also known as composite. And so far the RFP is written for that. The hardware on bulkhead and structural members is specified for hot dip hot dipped galvanized, and I have asphalt on my brain. Sorry, thinking about roads as well. But that's the hot dip galvanized, and it specifies not to come from certain countries that have a historical record of not doing very good galvanization. So we've identified some of those things, and then on the top portion where people will be fishing, walking, standing, utilizing that pier. I'm going to send it out for 2 different quotes, one for wood, the other for a composite material, just to have it for comparison's sake, but specifying in that stainless steel hardware. It's important that that doesn't rust and corrode, and sometimes using the galvanized will crack and allow corrosion to enter that, and it just becomes a mess. So that's the direction we're moving and with this, and should have this ready to go at the next meeting. Just as a status update.
So do you have a new date that you're going to bring this back to council?
It will be the 1st April. I don't have the date in front of me right now.
Okay.
1st April meeting.
April 5th.
April 5. 6.
6.
I have 7. Is it April 6th? 4, 6? 6. Okay. Are there any questions? It is a discussion item if you want to ask anything. Try to be comprehensive in my explanation.
I think everybody's good.
Thank you.
All right. Next is item number 9, new business. Consent agenda items A, B, C, and D as shown on the screen. Does any council members want a item pulled? Having none, is there any objections to the consent agenda by council? Having none, council accepts consent agenda as written. Next is council business. Discussion of possible action may be taken on the following items. Item A is appointment of 1 member to the Zoning Board of Adjustments due to the resignation of Jeff Terrell. Term will expire September 30th, 2021. And I think we have 2 applications that are in your packet, and plus an additional note that went out on Elaine Sokoloff. And in reviewing it, just for my recommendation was placing Mark Thompson on the ZBOA, but council votes for that, so. Need a motion.
I'll motion to appoint Elaine Sokoloff to the ZBOA.
I'll second.
All right, I have Elaine by Mr. Scanlon, second by Mr. Conister. Any discussion?
I do have a question. Since there's only 2 people, do we have to have an alternate on that committee?
Yes, by the rules of that committee it does. So she's an alternate now. So if she was chosen, she'll move up to a primary position, and we'll have to fill an alternate.
And since Mark is applying, could we nominate him for that? If we decide to put her and move her up?
Yeah, you could.
Okay.
an amendment to the motion.
Is Mark here?
Mark is not here.
I'd like to amend my motion to include appointing Mark Thompson as an alternate to the ZBOA.
I'll second that.
Alright, a motion was amended by Mr. Scanlon with adding Mr. Thompson as the alternate and seconded by Mr. Fisher. Any discussion? Having no discussion, all in favor, aye, or hand up. Obviously none opposed, motion passes. Next is item number B, action from public hearing, ordinance violation regarding some substandard building at property 419 Oak Road, Clear Lake Shores, Texas 77565. And I'd like to turn this over to Mr. Kevin Harrell to explain the proceedings on this, and also tonight Mr. Smith is here as our city attorney. First I'll let Mr. Harrell explain.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Hearing Mr. Chinecki's plan, I don't have issue with the plan. I do want a structural engineer to verify the ground floor section that is the cement block to make sure that it is structurally sound. And I would like to have a letter and it be stamped and signed by that engineer. As for the rest of the property, there's nothing worth saving. I'd like to see it scraped off. I don't see an issue giving Mr. Chinecki time. You can establish how much time you want to give him to remove that structure. Do you have any questions?
The only issue that I had with the plan that was presented is the time, and I think you can probably set that by council action and make sure that it's in the order, that the time is specific. Certainly it needs to be reasonable, and it sounds like Mr. Chinecki is willing to take things down and do it as expeditiously as possible, but I would like to make sure that it's done, that we've got some signposts along the way in terms of time so that we know whether or not he's complying with that.
I would agree with the attorney. I would say 90 days would be more than enough time to get things settled with reports from Mr. Chinecki establishing that things are being removed in a timely manner.
Including the analysis from the structural engineer. Because
that is correct.
Those two things can progress along the same timeline.
Yes, I agree.
He was yes. So he was explaining from the city standpoint of how the city stands with the agenda item. After we get a motion and the council speaks, then we'll take discussion from the floor. So if there's nothing further, Mr. Harrell, Mr. Smith, we can refer to council at this time.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Before you make a motion, I would like to clarify that in that 90 days, I would like it cleared. Okay, as long as we establish that in 90 days, it's cleared, which includes the wall if it is found structurally unsound.
So, need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the 90 days to remove and remediate the property.
Have a second?
Can I get a clarification? Does that include? that include the structural engineer to evaluate the lower story? Okay.
I'll second.
That's all right.
Motion by Mr. Cronster, second by Mr. Scanlon to clear the property within 90 days.
Okay, Kevin, I got a question for you. If we do this, and you're talking about reports, and we're talking about timely situation here, how often do we need him to report to you? How often are you going to go inspect, or is he just going to bring you a report?
I would like both, actually. I would go out and inspect the progress, and I would like to have a report at least every 2 weeks.
So can we refer to him?
I think the 90 days may be appropriate for the total cleanup of the site, but I'd like to see something added as far as some steps along the way that are a lot shorter than that. 90 days is a long time. That gets us into the summer. I'm not going to comment on my opinion of the structure itself, but reading the reports, it doesn't seem like something that can not have a deadline to at least have progress steps and getting it down to a certain level. I don't know if that's something we can assign as part of this motion.
Push it hard.
There it is. Yes, you certainly can assign it. It would depend on what what your levels are. I don't know how you establish those, but you could certainly say, third floor within X number of days, second floor within X number of days, the engineering report within X number of days. If you want to do that, however detailed you want to be, so long as it's reasonable and can be accomplished.
So if we have a break real quick, or unless you're going to talk.
No, go ahead.
So I was just wondering if Mr. Combs or Mr. Harrell, if you'd like to add anything about the findings of the household and any recommendations that you have from the fire marshal's office.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, thank you. First, let me introduce myself. I know that most of you have not met me since COVID. My name is Tommy Combs. I'm a contractual inspector for the city with the fire marshal's office, and it's a pleasure being here. In the early 70s, I was a resident of Clear Lake Shores, and I sold my house, and I wished I still had it today. So with that said, we do sympathize with Mr. Chinecki's loss. It's a devastating loss. I've been in the fire service for 42 years. We do sympathize with his loss, but we're also very concerned with the state of the residents right now. The residence is unsafe. I think from both myself and the building officials' standpoint, we have declared the building unsafe, structurally unsafe. What I would like to see from the fire marshal's viewpoint, standing from the third floor, immediately take down the walls. I think that's one of your concerns with the citizens that live next to it. We drove by there today, and looking at the third floor, I think with the strong wind or heavy rain or weather conditions, that top floor could come off. So immediately take down the third floor walls. Second, leaving that up to council. If you want 90 days to clear the property, I think you're almost going to have to clear this property to do away with the public nuisance. It is a public nuisance now. I think it is unsafe as we speak. I cannot tell you the structural elements of it because I have not been inside. I don't know if I want to go inside until a structural engineer takes a look at it. So with that said, I would think council would take some action of giving at least the 90 days, immediately taking down the third floor, giving them 90 days to clear it to grade level, and protect the property. Our concern is that we don't have children going into this house at nighttime and having a problem. That's the last thing we want, is somebody to get injured inside this house. So that's really the main reason for the speed of taking down the house. We understand that this is a devastating loss, but now we have an opportunity or a liability, I guess, standpoint of if anybody walks in this house, that the city could be liable for it, and that's more city attorneys than mine. But I would also like to see a fence around the property to secure this property from anybody getting into it. Now, if they want to tear down the house, obviously we can work with them. 2 weeks notice on planning and a timeline sequence from Mr. Shonecki. He can call us. He can write it down. I think Kevin asked for a written report, so give us a small written report of what the progress is. We just don't want to be sitting here in 90 days and still looking for a structural report. So I think it's very obvious and very important to have a time sequence from him, and we can certainly sit down if you give us that opportunity.
And I believe per the code, I think it's 417, but 30 days to come up with that plan and actually have it written out and present it to Mr. Harrell for approval to proceed, and looking at council that at the end of the day, up to 90 days per Mr. Harrell's approval, but to seriously consider the structure itself and the high walls and safing those areas immediately because of the adjacent structures of people's homes that they're not able to live in at this time until those things are resolved. Yeah, it's any further discussion? Yes. No, you absolutely, if excuse me? Yes, you will. I want to make sure council's done discussing for right now, and you want to hear the public. Okay. Mr. Raymond.
Thank you. You guys are okay. So, I think we may be not recognizing two separate issues here. One is the remediation of the property, the debris, and cleaning up the site to make it not a public nuisance. But the immediate wall falling hazard is very present and real. This isn't something that can wait anywhere near 90 days. It shouldn't have, it's waited, as of tomorrow it will have been 3 weeks. This should have been resolved within the first 72 hours. So it is inaction that is allowing this hazard to continue. It is certainly infringing on my rights as a citizen to be in my home, and it's creating liabilities across the board for myself, for the scene of the fire, and for the city. So I would urge us to separate those timelines and address the immediate liability and real danger that exists right now. I don't know how to do that with the city ordinances, but we need to find a way to be reasonable about this and not get caught up in the bureaucracy.
Yep, and that's the purpose of all this right now, and presenting it to council and council making that decision.
I just wanted to, I guess, be overly clear about that.
Yes. Thank you. Mr. Chinesky?
Here you go.
Can you use the
You gotta use the
microphone,
microphone.
please? Well, I know, but it's recorded. Yes, sir.
I intend to take it down Thursday. I don't know. Thursday. I'm going to take it down Thursday. Write that down, will you? Now, if it's raining Thursday, I can't do it. I'll take it down Friday. I mean, I kind of resent the whole thing because I'm being honest here with going forward every day of my life, and I'm getting, pummeled here. I'm going to do it, so I'm going to do it. If I don't do it, then Kevin's going to report to somebody. somebody, he didn't do it, and then I'm gonna be back here. I mean, I'm not gonna not do it. I'm, that, on the 90 days, here's what I think. Look, I realize that what the city's worried about is whether I'll keep going with it, and I will keep going with it. But if I don't keep going with it, Kevin's got that job. He'll know I'm not going because he doesn't get any report from me, or he can go to the site and see that there's still piles of crap there, and that's gonna be the over. That is the keep, and so now we're going to spend a lot of bureaucratic time. I know 2 days or something. That's ridiculous. I mean, you just can't do it. I had in the beginning. Anyway, it's all like that. I can't control that. So if you had a timeline that I had to have a dumpster today, I would not have met it. But it's not through my fault. I tell you, the answer here is, and if and I'll do it. And I rather not make written reports because that's going to take time, and that's time I'm tearing down the property. So what I'd like to do is have Kevin examine it. He can come I don't care how often he comes. I don't really want him on the property too much. I don't want him to get hurt. But to look at it, and if he feels the progress isn't adequate, then he can report back to somebody, I don't care who, and then I'll be right back here explaining myself. I don't mind doing that, and I don't mind a written report every now and then. Maybe, I don't know, it's just time away, isn't it? Do you understand? I got to write it and print it and blah, it's just all bureaucracy instead of getting the job done. This gentleman wants that place cleared, and I want it cleared too, so I can't, Thursday I'm going to do it. They won't bring the lift. No, I don't want to do it 90 days. No.
Right.
I intend to do it Thursday.
Yeah, so I think council is trying to listen to everybody and make a decision to enforce that.
I do want to add one thing though that I forgot to say, and that is on going forward. Like I said, I think I'm going to sell, but I do have a contractor and an agreement with a contractor already. Whenever I get to whatever level is structurally sound, whether it's the first floor or the ground or whatnot, he's agreed to dry in a building for me in 60 days. So he's got Franco. He owns the blue and yellow house that I'm staying in right now. He has 22 houses under construction. He's got the crew to do it. He owns 3 building supply stores in Houston. So he told me that Kevin could call him if he wants to, but he stands ready to do that if necessary. So I do have plans in place. This isn't some random deal.
Right, and I believe that's what we need to see the plan to Mr. Harrell.
Yeah.
And give him,
I talked to him 2 days ago.
and that's what council's deciding is when you get that plan to him, and then the other thing is safing this wall.
Yeah, the wall's gone.
Okay, but it needs to be understood of what we're agreeing to.
Yeah, that's no problem. I don't know what plan you want. I'm gonna tear
Well,
it down, I'm gonna clean it up, and I'm not
It's
building
whatever makes Mr. Harrell happen as far as permitting.
We need a plan with some timelines.
Correct.
That's the issue.
I do require a written plan. And the reason I want the written plan is for documentation. Same with the reports. It's for documentation.
No problem. But that's well, I'll spend my morning doing that. Right? I have to for some. Huh? You have to get a demolition permit. Do I need some kind of permit to tear it down?
Yes, you will need a demolition permit. If you're representing the contractor, yes, you do. Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I could be any more cooperative, actually. I'm just trying my best to do so.
No, right, and we're just trying to uphold the ordinances, and so the, big thing is if you talk about drying in a certain area of the building and stuff.
I'm not
we just,
drying anything
no,
inside the building.
but just make sure we work everything
Well,
through,
I'm not
Mr.
I don't, at this point, I don't intend to build. That's my feeling at the moment. So maybe I will. You know, it's so funny, Mike, that they don't color the button.
Okay, Kevin, I have a question.
Anyway, there you go.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about this wall that seems to be very important. He says he's going to take it down on Thursday or as soon as he can get the equipment in there to do it. So, would it make you happy to amend this motion to include that wall in a certain time frame and then go from there with the rest of it? Because we're also talking about, the structural integrity of whatever it is that Mr. Chinecki wants to leave that needs to be inspected by a structural engineer. So it's going to be a long motion that we're fixing to make, but should we make more than one motion stipulating?
I would like to see something more along the lines of immediately, and Mr. Chernecki is immediately taking actions on Thursday, that's 48 hours from now, to demolish all of the significantly damaged portions of the structure. He said it himself, the third floor, the second floor, the outbuilding. Get all that demolished on a short timeline and
That can't be done. Not by Thursday.
well, of course not by Thursday. Your intent is to start Thursday, which is about as soon as you. Right. Well, that's about as soon as you can start. So he starts to demolish all of the stuff that we know is significantly damaged. It's in your report, and then has a structural engineer come in again on a shorter timeline and establish that everything remaining is safe and structurally okay. Then the longer timeline can go along. I just talking about this one wall. I don't think that's specific enough or inclusive enough of what needs to be done now. I mean, it seems pretty evident from the hearing that a huge portion of the structure is damaged, and it doesn't make sense that is not dangerous while just this one wall is, at least in my eyes.
The one wall is the only thing that can affect anyone else.
All right, Mr. Chernecki, if you're going to talk, can you please come to the front on the microphone?
I couldn't take it all down in sequence. It's just that the one wall.
Microphone, sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry, Mr. Connector, could you put that sequence in writing?
Yeah.
With the timeline?
Yes, I can.
And give it to Mr. Harris.
The timeline.
That's what we're asking.
That's another thing, though. There ought to be an exception for weather. I can't control the weather. I mean, there's no way to do that.
I understand, and
Well,
we're not.
I mean, 90 days doesn't include rain, and it rains here a lot. I don't know.
I
The problem is
understand.
the equipment driving. Like that's why they wouldn't bring the boom on.
If you had a contract with a Cherry Demolition or something, they would have it torn down in a certain amount of time per your contract.
Maybe. I mean, you're saying they always meet their contract, huh? That would mean there's no lawyers. I mean, I've been involved in those suits. That's not true. Look at COVID. Who would have predicted that? So then what do? I mean, now it's about receding, but what would you do if you had an agreement to do something in 2 weeks and everything was closed? It's not possible to control the future. You can only judge a person's intent by what they do, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm not against the timeline, kind of generally, and I'm not against the reports. I understand that the city needs that.
We're not looking for unreasonable dates. We're not saying it needs to be torn down by Thursday. What we want you to do is present a plan that is reasonable. And a reasonable plan would include weather dates. Okay?
I agree. Okay.
So if you can put that. It's done all the time in contracts, in road contracts. They include weather days. It happens all the time. Okay? If you could put together a reasonable plan.
Washington State University for 6 years.
Hold on, people. Can we keep it quiet, please?
I'll write a contract if that's what you want.
No, I don't want a contract. What I want is a plan that is reasonable, that addresses the issues that your neighbors have, that they're out of their house. see if you can, you know, as soon as possible, understanding that weather can be a problem, get the hazardous issues in this structure down. We're not beating a dead horse. We're not seeing a specific timeline from you. I understand you want to take it down. We just don't know when. I understand, but you said if it rains Thursday, it's not going to be Thursday. I understand. What we want is a timeline. If it's not Thursday, if you've got rain issues on Thursdays, I understand. I'm not a weatherman either. But give us something to work with that we can hold you to. What we don't want to be doing is 90 days from now having this same discussion.
So what's important is that if we, council agrees to this timeline, there's 30 days, and then if certain things fall in there and it's not done, then it has to come back to council so that the city will take action on unsafe structure. Right. That's what the concern is.
Right. We could include some sort of a tiered structure where you address the most dangerous things within, say, let's say 10 days. Let's get that done. And then let's say, you know, give us a structural engineer's report within, I'm just throwing out times here that council doesn't have to be married to these, but give us a structural engineer's report within 30 days. And then have, okay, 60 days. I'm throwing out times here, okay? And then have the whole thing scraped clean and everything that's not structurally sound gone in 90 days. But within 10 days, have the most dangerous things gone so that these folks can move back into their house. I'm just throwing out ideas here.
I think that's a good idea. Obviously the problem I have is I don't want to keep coming back here and explaining things that that the dumpster guy wouldn't dump the dumpster, that it rained on, that's just.
But those are things that you're going to have to take care of and work with Kevin, city staff.
Yeah, right. And that's the way to do it.
Right. Yeah, we don't need to come back to council. You're working with city staff from here on out.
I don't want to sign something in writing that says, okay, I'll have all the third floor removed by, I don't know, April 2nd. Because I can't control all the variables. What I can do is do it in a reasonable time. I don't want to say 30, 45 days to get the third floor gone or the property clean. Look, I can't clean the ground while I'm tearing off the top because the top is going to go to the ground.
Understandable.
I mean, it's a process.
But you understand as a lawyer more than anybody else that reasonable is not a specific time frame. Within a reasonable time frame, that is not a specific time frame. What we're looking for is a specific time frame.
Well, I mean, I thought 90 days was the maximum council could have.
Well, it is. I'm not sure that your neighbors would be satisfied with 90 days.
Well, I don't want to. In other words, I think that the walls are safe to move.
And that's why I'm saying let's look at a more.
I'm going to do it. Maybe look, guy falls off the boom lift. Now what? I can't control it.
I understand, but that's what I'm saying. Let's put in place a tiered schedule that addresses those things, and let's address the things that are the most dangerous now.
Okay, I got an idea. I'm a sane human. Let me write out a plan, okay?
That's what we've been asking for.
And then you guys can review it, or something like that. Because this is just banter. Now, we're not going. And you can say to me, well, this isn't specific enough, or this isn't.
Well, you're absolutely correct. Council will be voting for you to come up with a plan and to work with Kevin, but I think there's two items that are really concerned, is safing the existing facility or house so that the people next door can move back into their house. Okay?
See, the problem with
that's number one. That's number one. They need a place to live, so the city's working with them and you. Number two is at the end of the day, the back of the house, if you find that the front is structurally sound within X 60 days, and within 90 days, you'll have the back scraped. Those are all within, okay.
Yeah, to me, that's the way you look at it. Let's get the second, third floors dealt with, immediately, and set a time frame for that. Then set a time frame for the structural engineer. Then set a time frame for the whole thing to be scraped, and that sounds like 90 days.
So council can make a motion to do all this, and if there's something that you can't do, you work with Kevin, and Kevin will bring that back to council for them to reconsider.
Put that in the motion.
Gentlemen, I'd like to interrupt you just briefly. I would like to direct this question to the contractor in the back. If you come in tomorrow and pull a demo permit, how long will it take you to tear down the third and second story wall on the south side? Can you do it in 72 hours? The wall on the south side,
the wall of concern that's over by their house.
I'm only asking on the south wall that is adjacent to their home. Can you take it down in 72 hours? Will that satisfy you two? Which would be Friday. Thank you.
I would like the falling hazard to be remediated so that
This would allow them to move into their home and start their process.
So this recommendation's coming from the city inspector to council.
Correct.
Alright, let me ask you a question, Kevin. Is that 72 hours from now, or 72 hours starting Thursday after he's got his permit?
Tomorrow morning. He says he will come in tomorrow morning and pull it.
Okay, that's what I want to clarify from you. It sounds like Kevin's kind of pushing you here. Once you have your permit in hand, and you can get your equipment out here, how long do you need to take down that south wall so that they can commence getting...
And that would be within the 72 hours.
72 hours from tomorrow morning.
72 hours from issue of permit.
Yes.
Alright, can you do that? 72 hours after a permit's issued, you can have that wall down? Obviously, weather permitting, and yeah, I mean, if there's an act of God or something that comes up, obviously, we can't foresee that. Exactly.
And that you will apply for the permit this week. He's going to apply for the permit tomorrow morning. Well, I mean, let's get that established too. Let's say 72 hours for permit, and permit is applied for tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
All right. All right, so council, do you have a amended motion? Absolutely. Can we have quiet, please?
Okay, I'd like to amend my motion to give Mr. Chinecki 10 days to tear down that second and third wall, which should give you plenty of time to pull permits, rain permitting, whatever. Of course, if it rains, you're going to call and say, hey, it's raining. We can see it's raining. And you can confirm that you can or cannot work. So the motion is for 10 days to tear that third and second floor down, including that south wall that's adjacent to your property. In that 10 days, I'd like to also have you come up with your plan, okay, to work with Kevin on your long-term plan for the 90 days.
Yeah, that's no problem. The only thing, Randy, is I think 10 is fast for the third and the second. The second, there's a lot of concrete there. You're talking sledgehammers and stuff. But it's not.
Did you not just say you could do that? Okay.
No discussion right now because he's in the middle of making a motion.
So that's my motion, okay? 10 days to take down the third and the second floor, including the wall that's on the south side, okay? And during that 10 days, to come back with a plan to Kevin for the total remediation. So you just gotta come up with a plan. That's the motion.
So we have a motion on the floor for 10 days to take down the second and third floor, including the south wall. And then within, and a plan within the 10 days, and then within 90 days, the remediation of the property.
So I'm guessing with second, we get to, discuss it after that? Yeah. Okay, well, I'll second the motion then.
Second by Mr. Fisher, discussion.
Alright, I got a question for the contractor. Again, he was
is.
talking about so second and third floor demolition in 10 days. With, everything that's you've got on the second floor, you're talking about a lot of concrete and a lot of busting. Is that actually reasonable to get the second floor down also in 10 days? Or okay. Alright, but in your opinion as a contractor, 10 days for the second and third floor should be, I mean, and again, obviously, no unforeseen circumstances, should be enough time. Okay. That's just what I wanted to, there we go.
I would like to see a shorter time frame included in the motion for the south wall. Much shorter than 10 days. That's gonna mean that thing's been standing for a month.
Go, here's my question to you again about that. If you go in and you rip down the south wall, what does that do to the rest of the structure? If you're not prepared to take it down at the same time? Right. Well, I think I'm just trying to give you enough time to do it. That's why I'm asking you.
Would it be possible to amend the motion to have the second and third story demolition in 10 days with a 72-hour caveat after issuance of the permit for that south wall?
Well, part of the problem you get into with that is what's today? You got Thursday and Friday, and then it's the weekend. You know, you get the 72 hours gets you into the weekend.
You know, it doesn't matter if it's Friday or Saturday or Sunday, that wall's still gonna kill somebody if it falls.
Right, well, he'd already said though that, earlier, that if the permit's issued tomorrow, he can get that south wall down in 72 hours. So would it be possible to amend the motion to, once the permit is issued, have the south wall taken down in 72 hours, and then the rest of the second and third story down in 10 days?
And
Along with the written plan, basically as you already made it, but just add the 72-hour caveat just for that south wall.
Could you give the plan 14 days along with the structural evaluation? Because that's gonna take us into the first week in April to have a plan, a structural evaluation, and the building in a safe condition, and then go from there. So 72, 10, 14, this is eval, plan, second, third, wall.
As just a recommendation from my side is, close of business Monday, have that wall that's down. understanding, yeah, the south wall, understand that we can't work on Sunday. So that's over 72 hours. So it's
Yeah.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and all day Monday.
That's a good idea, because you know you can't even dispose of this stuff sometimes on the weekend.
But we've got to safe the
Well, at this point,
place.
just getting it down is kind of the,
Both
I
fi-
think that's the important thing.
both me and the fire marshal agree that 72 hours is enough time to take the wall down. We're not asking that it get carted off. It's just down. And that's all we're really asking. As for the other 10 days to take the west wall down, that's great. Whether it's 10 days or 14 days to get the plan, I'm okay with that. I just want to get these people back in their home. And I think 72 hours is reasonable just to push the wall over.
Yeah, if he says he can do it, he can do it. I mean, I'm not gonna.
So you have city staff making recommendation.
Pardon?
You have city staff making a recommendation to council.
Hey, Kevin, along with a plan, once the building is semi torn down, would you want a structural evaluation at that time, or?
I would like a structural evaluation because I know Mr. Chinecki is considering keeping that portion of the structure. I would like to have a structural engineer as quickly as possible. Now,
Excuse me 1 minute in the back, please. It's real hard for us to hear, I'm sorry, but please understand, thank you.
and I understand that an engineer will have to be hired, and he may not be able to be out there that day. It could be a week, it could be 2 weeks, but I would like to have it as soon as possible. To say that he could have it in 14 days, maybe, but it all depends upon engineers and their busy schedules and when they'll take time to drive out. But I would like to have it as soon as possible.
Okay, so if we make a motion to do this in the 72 hours,
You have a motion out there, so you would be amending your motion.
yeah, if I amend the motion to tear down that wall in 72 hours, give him 10 days to come to you with a plan on the rest of the remediation, however you guys work together and break that up, does that make you happy? Can you do that?
You don't want to include the 10 days. You don't want to include the 10 days to tear down the second and third floor we were discussing earlier.
No, that's part of it. That's part of it. 72 to get the one wall down, 10 days to get the other ones down. Down to that first floor level, yes, sir. And then during that 10 days, put a plan together and meet with Kevin moving forward. Okay, so what is the stipulation?
Motion, we have amended motion. All right, so are you done with your amended motion?
Yes.
We have a second. You have a,
Okay, so for your amended motion for 72 hours for the south wall, 10 days for the rest of the third and second story, along with coming up with a written plan, for Kevin to start working with to get the rest of it remediated within 90 days, I'll second that.
Do we need to add a stipulation for anything else, specifically a structural evaluation that's been brought up several times? Or is that something you'll just require on your own, Kevin?
That'll be part of the plan.
Just securing the property, so nobody can get on the property.
Well, I think it's fully fenced now.
The only thing, I know I'm not on the council, but if you could make it 10 business days, that, Sunday is really a problem in Texas to get things done.
You know, if we're gonna have open days out there, so I'd like to invite to, I thought we were just having comments. We've got a motion in a second.
Okay. We have a
is
motion
there
on the table
discussion?
with a second.
Yeah, it's a discussion by council, any further?
Not for me.
All right, so the final motion, Christie, can you read it off, please? I want it from the minutes.
I've got 72 hours to take the south wall down. 72 hours to take the south wall down, 10 days to get the second and third floor, demolished, and then within that 10 days to bring a plan forward for the remediation for the next 90 days.
So one last question. If this is setting a 90-day timeline to accomplish remediation of the structure, if he does elect to rebuild with a portion or of the building because it's deemed structurally adequate, is there another hearing, or is that just something that will blow past the 90 days and it becomes a new build?
If Mr. Chernecki hires an engineer and it's deemed sound, then he would have to start the building permit process. It would not have to come back to council because the rest of the structure would have been taken down.
Because it's over 50%, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
All right. So we have a motion and a second, and it's been read. Taking the vote, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion passes. And it is, I don't know what time it is, 8:21, meeting adjourned.